So the thing that I did for mine was I implemented Conway's Game of Life in C++. Um, I used uh, to actually display the uh, the current like board on screen. I used the OLC Pixel Game Engine, which is a simple uh, game engine that just lets you um, draw pixels to specific points on the screen without needing to be too complicated. So, um, so when you launch it, it looks like this. The um, the two numbers at the top are the viewport. So that it basically is what pixel is right here. Um, and then all of these down here are the actual board itself. You can change the viewport using the arrow keys so that you can have more data active than what's currently displayed. Um, so then you can draw the pixels onto the board just by clicking with the mouse. And when you enter, the board will update according to the rules of Conway's Game of Life. So this pattern creates essentially a series of cells that move downwards diagonally. And you can press spacebar to just let it go on its own and press it again to stop it. Um, there is also, I have a way to load a predefined board. So this is a 100 by 100 board that is just written out in text. Ones represent live cells, and anything else represents a dead cell. So if I give the test file to it as an argument, the program will be preloaded with these cells already in place, and you can press enter or space to run the simulation with that configuration. And that's basically it.
Interesting. The are you new to the Pixel Game Engine? Is this something you had to learn recently?
Yeah, uh, it's it's something I looked into for uh, uh, participating in game jams because I've used Pico 8 before if you've ever used that, but I don't really like using Lua because I don't like how it's weakly typed. So I wanted to find something that was similar to Pico 8, but in a different language that would like C++ that would let me use like proper object-oriented stuff and classes and what have you, which Lua doesn't fully support. So I like it because this and as well as Pico 8 have a very simple draw function that you just give it a coordinate on the screen and a pixel of a specific color, and it can draw that pixel just directly on the screen without worrying about um, managing specifics like complicated sprites or managing different like things like that.
So we're all familiar with the Game of Life. So it's a little silly to ask, but I am curious if you were to make any updates or changes to your game here, what would be the first feature you work on?
Um, so uh, currently, right now, the code for updating the the cells to the next state. It's a very simple, just loop through every single element um, and then update it. Um, However, that causes it to slow down, especially um, uh, if you let it go into automatic mode. Because by default, I have it create a 1,000 by 1,000 grid, which that's a lot of elements to update every single time. So I would want to look into creating changing how it updates the cells so that instead of just naively updating every single cell, um, instead it uh, only updates the cells that actually need to be changed.
Okay, that's a good improvement. Okay. Do we have any other questions for Joe here with Game of Life?
Yeah, is you mentioned you have it in input format. Is there an easy way to export the game board after you edit it to that same format?
Currently, no, there is not.
How hard on a scale of 1 to 10 do you think that would be to implement?
That would be honestly pretty easy. You would just need to um, essentially you would need to loop through every single cell and get its a state, which I already have a function for that because um, I use the function when I draw the cell on the screen to get its current state, and then you would just need to write that into a file. Just put a single character for a zero and a single character for a one for each thing in the board. So it would be pretty easy to implement exporting the current board.
Right, and so that first line is just your dimensions, and then
Yeah,
the
it's
following
the
will be gotcha. And so those are new line characters at the end of the line then?
yes. At
Okay.
the end of each line, there's a new line, and then the new lines don't need to be there. It can just be 1,000. It can just be
It'll
the
treat it like a
characters.
single dimension or yeah,
Mm-hmm.
gotcha. How about on a scale of 1 to 10, how about click and drag for copy paste, like Paint,
You can
like MS
drag
Paint?
for. Um,
So like your click interaction to actually light up that pixel,
yeah, yeah,
instead of lighting up the pixel to implement a draggable to make a bounding box and then copy the contents of those and then be able to paste those like multiple, like how you put a glider on the screen, to put multiple gliders just by pasting and like choose the top left corner of the bounding box where you want to
right.
click. Right. So you get what I'm saying. How bad would
So
that be? Scale of 1 to 10.
as long as it's a fully rectangular like selection, I don't think it would be too bad. Um,
Right. They
there's
support all those mouse events, I'm sure, in
yeah,
the
there's
toolkit.
button pressed and button held. So right now I'm using button pressed for here it is space get mouse button zero. When the button is first pressed down, it registers that event. I could do mouse button zero for button held, and then I could do button release to get the so you could
So it's a
hold
pretty
it down on
standard
the first
event
one.
listener model, and you could get that current coordinate as soon as that event gets thrown. And then
Hmm.
if it gets held across the selection, then you have your bounding box then.
Yeah.
Cool.